Hey guys, what's going on? Absolutely Beast here. So today, we're going to be taking a look at the part 3 of my Forza 7 How to Prepare series, which is going to be touching on, whole video is going to be about shifting and transmission. So, in the first video we hit on hitting the apex and turning the car in and taking the right line. In the second video we hit on braking and acceleration. And now in the third video we're going to be hitting on shifting. So just really quickly before we get started with that, something that I neglected a few weeks back was the Hoonigan Car Pack. This is something that I thought was only for Forza Horizon 3, so I completely ignored it. But I'll link it down in the description, the article, so you guys can read it if you want. But basically, it's a couple of pre-order bonus cars that you'll get. The Hoonigan Car Pack are basically like custom-built cars, and if you pre-order Forza Motorsport 7 digitally, you will have access to those, and those of us who have already pre-ordered will also have access to it for free. We just go and download it. But yeah, there's some interesting cars in there. There's an LS swapped RX-7. There's a 1400 horsepower twin turbo V8 methanol injected 1960s Ford Mustang. There's a lot of cool cars. There's a Ford Escort in there with a 9,000 RPM red line. And there's a Chevy Nova from 72 in there, Napalm Nova. There's also a 1955 Chevy Bel Air with a big old lifted front end. So there's some interesting stuff in there. So make sure you guys check that out if you're interested in it. So I'm gonna get right into it here. So I'm driving the Porsche 911 GT3 RS, and this thing sounds amazing. So keeping in mind everything we've already talked about with the first two videos, as far as taking the proper line and braking and accelerating at the right time, shifting is extremely important. It's crucial. So the ultimate goal is to be driving manual, and also to be driving manual with clutch. Now some of the really higher end cars, like once you get to like F1 cars, you can go without a clutch. I mean, they don't use a clutch really in real life. I mean, use it to get the car going, but then they don't use it after that. In this game, you will always be able to make up a couple of tenths of a second over somebody who doesn't use a clutch if you do use a clutch. So, ultimately, you want to get yourself to the point of using a clutch and manual. So, the problem with the automatics is that it's going to shift too early. So, what you'll see with me is that I'm always shifting when I get to the red line. And the red line's real small in this car, but you'll see as we come up here. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to shift once I get into the red even slightly. So watch, here we go, right? Now shift. Now shift. And I don't shift until I get up into the red line. The reason for that is because that's where your power band is. You want to be, in the power band as long as possible. So that's the first reason why you'd want to go with automatic. Why you'd want to go away from automatic. Is because the manual allows you to choose your own gearing. Now, I will say this. If you're not familiar with the car, if you have a little bit of an issue keeping the car on the track and you still go off the track and kind of crash a lot, I wouldn't worry about manual right now. What I would say is manual is for those of you who can keep your car on the track the majority of the time, and can race fairly clean the majority of the time. So if you're coming up and if you're constantly going off into the grass and constantly like crashing and having to recover and stuff like that, manual's not for you yet. Keep going, keep practicing, and eventually you'll get to that point. But once you can keep the car on the track the majority of the time, at least 80-90% of the lap, then I think it's worth going to manual. And the sooner the better, honestly, because once you start using it, it becomes second nature at a certain point. And really, there's an old video on my channel from years ago where I drove my very first time with manual on Catalunya, and I ended up crashing. I spun out because I shifted wrong when I came through a corner, and then I couldn't get corrected. I couldn't get back on the track, and then I couldn't get straight, and my tires were hot, and I kept spinning 180s, and it was a disaster. But then just like a few days after that, I was basically back to my old self as far as what I was doing before that in automatic. So it only really took me a few days to sort of get enough of a hang of it to like make back up where I was. Now manual though is something that you can always get better at, just like any other part of driving. You can always get better at it. So the more you practice, the better you do. So again, for me, when you're upshifting, you want to go all the way to the red line. Now, you don't want to max the car. If you hear the car go like that, that was a misshift for me, because my car went, which basically means I was losing power because I'm just hitting the rev limiter, and I'm not gaining any power. So you want to shift right before that. So it's totally acceptable to hit that occasionally, but you want to basically shift right before you hit that. See right there, I didn't hit the button hard enough, and I did it again. That wasn't really on purpose, but for me, I shift by sound. With a car like this is actually the first time I've driven this car, so for the first little bit, you can't do that because you obviously don't know what the car, you're not familiar with the car, but once you start to get the hang of it a little bit, then you can actually shift by sound, and that way you don't need to constantly be looking down there to see where you're at, but you want to maximize everything out of every gear. So if you shift too early, not only do you lose a bit of power at the end of, say, third gear, but then at the beginning of fourth gear, you're also losing power. So you really want to shift as late as you possibly can without hitting the rev limiter, and that'll get you the best speeds possible. And then using clutch, basically you end up each shift when you use a clutch. Now this goes up for everything all the way up to like P class. When you use a clutch, you actually gain about a mile an hour per shift. So if you and someone else, and they were using manual but they weren't using a clutch, and you were using manual and a clutch, if you're driving the exact same car and you shifted at the exact same times, you would actually pull slightly ahead of them because you gain slightly more time with the clutch. So that's part of it, and that's just that's the easy part of shifting is here I go and shift, and right there I actually didn't shift, and I actually redlined it there and didn't shift because I was driving this for a couple of laps before and knew that I didn't need to. So that's kind of the easy part of going up with shifting. So the tougher part is going down and shifting. And going down and shifting is what makes your braking more efficient. It's what makes your driving more efficient. It's what allows you to use less brake. So you'll see it as I come in here. As I come into this next turn, I'm going to downshift pretty much immediately right away to 4, and then again down to 4, and then again to 3, and then I start to get back on the gas. So downshifting allows you to control your car more and control your speed more. So in automatic, as you come in and you smash the brakes, it's going to downshift automatically for you, and so you may not be in exactly the right gear. Now the importance of driving with manual shifting is that you get to pick the exact gear. Like see right here, see how I pull out of this turn? If I had been in automatic, I probably would have been in 4th right there, and that means when I came out of the turn, I wouldn't have been accelerating as much. So as you go up in gear, much like on, like, say, a 10-speed bike or a 21-speed, like a mountain bike, like a bicycle, if you start in 1st gear, it's super easy to pedal. But if you try to start in, like, 12th gear, it'd be extremely hard to start pedaling like that. So as you go, each gear pulls harder than the last one, but only up to speed. So actually the lower gears, for example, if you're coming out of a turn, if you're exiting a turn, 3rd gear is going to be better than 4th gear as far as acceleration goes. Now, that's not always the case because maybe it's a really fast turn and you're going really fast, but yeah, so I mean, downshifting is, going from, say, 4 to 5, 4 to 3 to 2, and that's, really important as far as controlling your speed and controlling the attitude of the car. Now, if you come into a turn and you're in 6th gear, if you just go bam, 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 and you downshift to 2nd, you're going to completely slide out and you'll crash. Now, also, if you come into a turn in 6th gear and you just drop to 5 and then just try to slow down to like 20 miles an hour, you're also not going to slow down in time and you're going to push out and you're probably going to hit the wall or go off into the grass. So the timing of downshifting is extremely important to downshift kind of as you need to. And again, it's one of those things that you learn over time, but downshifting is, becomes intuitive over time. But basically the point of shifting yourself and doing the manual shifting, and the point of any shifting, even if you're someone that already drives manual, the point is to be in exactly the right gear for exactly the right turn every single turn. So you need to know exactly what gear to enter every turn at, exactly what gear to take every turn at, and then exactly what gear to exit every turn at. And that just comes from practice of knowing the track and knowing the gearing. And there's no harm in using manual and then gradually getting to know that. But for me, I like to know my speeds because that way you know what gear to go in. For example, if my 3rd gear tops out at 120, if I have to take that turn at 115, I probably don't want to take it in 3rd gear because I'll just be pretty much redlining it. Also, if you take the turn at 115, you don't want to be in 2nd gear because your 2nd gear probably only goes about 105. So there's lots of different ways you can do it. You can actually take a turn in a lower gear or a higher gear, depending on how you like to do it. If you take it in a lower gear, like if you come into a turn that you're supposed to take in third and you take it in second, you're going to lose a lot of time. If you are supposed to take a turn in third and you come in and take it in fourth, you might not be able to make the turn, first of all, because you might not be able to slow down enough. But secondly, you might also not have enough acceleration when you're exiting the turn. So it's all about what feels right to you. Obviously, there's many different types of tunes, and each tune is going to handle slightly differently. But the goal of driving manual is to be very in tune with your car and to know, you want to get to the point where you're doing it automatically. Basically, you're shifting without thinking about it. And that's why I do it by sound, is because I don't think about it. I'm not looking there waiting to shift. I'm just, as I'm driving, I hear the engine start to rev out, and I just shift intuitively. And then same when you come into a turn, you slow down. You go down the gears as much as you need to. And so again, just like everything else, it's all about being more smooth. And I guarantee you, if you just switched to manual and you gave it a couple of days or even a week, I guarantee you'll figure it out, and I guarantee you'll figure out these things that I was just telling you as you go along. It just takes time. I just find that if you're aware of these things as you're learning, it makes it a little bit easier and sort of accelerates the process, trying to be smoother, trying to know how to take the things. Again, watch, you'll see me do it here. I'll come in here, and now I'm in 6, and I'll start to downshift. I'll go to 5, and then now to 4, and then now to 3. So if I had gone just straight from 6 to 3, I would have slid out the back. But if I had also tried to take, because you're going too fast for that gear, if I'd also tried to just take the turn in 6th, I wouldn't have done it. I would have hit the wall. So yeah, it's just important. It's just something practicing. I would recommend you drive manual if you can. It's really not that bad, and it really doesn't take too long to get used to, and it will improve your times drastically. So thank you guys for checking this out. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you check out all my other videos. There's plenty of other ones on my channel. I've been uploading a lot recently, and I've been trying to upload stuff, so if I find something, I'll let you know. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.